episode of the What Was That podcast. I'm your host, Fanny McMadden.
And I'm Fanny McCracken.
We've come in the night to steal and rob and... Wait, what was that? Are you okay?
I don't know. Are you okay?
Yeah, but it was like some Irish spirit... Irish and maybe a few other regions spirit came and just took over me for a second.
Yeah, I agree, except I only had to say the one lines.
Lucky.
But I wonder if it's because St. Patrick's Day is coming up.
I am not sure, but that would make sense. But we're going to blame it on that because I would say whatever you just saw was rather unlucky to have captured.
Yeah, I would say it felt and sounded pretty unlucky.
I'm thinking it's because we're cursed. The unluck of the Irish, if you will. Story 1. I had a strange leprechaun experience. I don't usually use Reddit, so I don't know if this is the appropriate spot for this, but here it goes. I had an encounter I've never been able to explain. When I was 10, I was wandering through my woods on St. Patrick's Day. By that point, I was well aware that leprechauns were not real, so I wasn't looking for anything and just killing some time. No neighbors behind our house, no anything, just woods. I knew the woods very well and was extremely comfortable spending some days wandering around. At some point, I stopped talking for a bit and was just looking around when I heard some sticks break. I looked over fully thinking I was about to see a deer, then all of a sudden walks out a 7-foot-tall leprechaun with orange hair. No mask or anything, just a huge dude dressed as a leprechaun in the middle of the fucking woods with orange hair and a beard. He didn't see me and I totally froze up. I watched him walk for maybe 10-15 seconds. The only thing I remember thinking is, I can't do nothing. I was froze, but somehow managed to yell out,
"Hey, you!"
Dude stopped in his tracks and turned his head and looked at me and sort of grinned. Lost all courage at that point, turned around and ran faster than I ever have in my life. Have no clue if he gave up the chase or not, but in my mind it felt like he was right behind me and I never slowed or looked back. This experience has drove me nuts ever since it happened because I just don't know how to explain it. Nobody knew where I was going, so it couldn't have been a setup. I've asked my parents and they both said they didn't have anything to do with it and thought I just made up the story as a kid. Thinking about it as an adult, my best guess is that I saw something that day and my brain just wasn't able to process it and my mind turned it into something I could understand. And since it was St. Patrick's Day, I ended up seeing a leprechaun. I honestly have no idea though, and it has stuck with me for years. I've never seen anything paranormal or whatever you want to call it since. I've always hated the fact that in a world where people see ghosts, UFOs, and Bigfoot, I had to see the most ridiculous thing possible. Figured I would throw it out and see if anyone has any explanations or similar experiences. Okay, so my first thought, which is also the first comment, that was just a drunken Irishman taking a pisser in the woods from like a backyard party. Yeah. That's my first thought.
No, because no leprechaun is 7 feet tall.
No, they're my height.
Stop! They're like,
I'm so short.
They're like this tall.
As I said.
Girl.
We're basically the same height. It's a dig on both of us.
We're literally like this.
Yeah, you're taller than I am. I tell people that.
Just by a fraction.
I tell everyone that.
I like being the tall one.
Yeah. This one comment says it was a leprosquatch. Yeah, which I think is very compelling.
7-foot leprechaun. I have never in my life.
What's a Sasquatch? Like 8 feet, 9 feet? Take off a couple of like inches from like, I assume the dad's the leprechaun. It's like a Chihuahua and a Doberman.
They're probably like, I say a Sasquatch would be like 12 feet tall.
So yeah, he's just like the little baby Sasquatch, but his daddy's a leprechaun. So
yeah,
that's why he's so short.
I guess that's a good average.
And that's why his hair's red. His dad's a leprechaun.
Okay, I was like, still, I can't. I'm like trying to like compute this. Yeah, I'm digging way too deep into this. It is definitely a drunk man who came out of the woods. It's just like a drunk guy. And you probably looked at him and you were like, damn, he's tall. He was not 7 foot.
Yeah. Back when I was 3 feet tall, everyone was 7 foot, so.
Yeah.
You know.
You're the leprechaun. OP's actually the leprechaun. They're just trying to gaslight all of us.
Seeing what people know. Oh, his face had a strange sort of waxy sheen to it. All the features were mostly normal except for the mouth. His mouth was too long, and when he grinned, it seemed to get even bigger.
What were you on? What? Because waxy, he was probably sweaty.
Sweaty.
Because
like
when you get drunk, you kind of like get hot.
Especially if you're eating like corned beef, you got the meat sweats.
Yeah. Yeah. You've been drinking beer all day.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are in the world, it could already be hot. It's hot in Texas already.
I was gonna say, when I'm drunk, my mouth is weird shit too, so I don't know.
Yeah, right. He could have just been holding his mouth at a weird angle, or
like, this looks normal, right?
You were also. Did he say he was drunk?
No, he was 10.
Oh, well, 10-year-olds make up shit all the time.
Yeah, what the fuck? You don't even know what he's on. Get out of here, you fucking kid. Just kidding. Please cut that out.
Okay, now your comment makes more sense when you said when I was a kid. I was like, okay.
Like, neat.
Ow.
I said, I can't protect you from yourself.
Oh, that one hurt.
Imagine.
Anyway, yes. So 10 years old, everyone looks 7 foot if they're above like 6 foot.
Yeah.
So waxy sheen, you're a kid, they're drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another comment saying it's probably one of their neighbors dressed as a leprechaun. OP responds saying, I'm not denying it's possible, but the dude was way too big. Also, I don't have any neighbors or anybody that would have been around in the area. I live in the woods of Maine. Why would anybody be wandering in the middle of nowhere dressed as a leprechaun?
They were at a house party, man.
Yeah. And
the
like,
best house parties.
Really fucking tall people. Have you seen any like basketball players?
NBA players? Yeah.
They don't all go to the NBA.
Also, yeah. Like, well, I'm talking about all the NBA players. Yeah. They're like
some of them just wander in the woods dressed as a leprechaun. That's all I'm saying.
But they also, like, the best house parties are at farms in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. So it's St. Patrick's Day. You're trying to ball out.
Yep.
Farm in the woods.
Especially if you're in like a smaller town. Mm-hmm. What else are you going to do?
Yeah.
House party.
Case closed.
Yeah. Day party. Bring it up. That's what I would be doing if I was a 7-foot person living in Maine, ballpark, however many years ago. So yeah, I've got nothing else to say. It was either a drunken man or a leper squatch.
Yeah, that leper squatch sounds like leprosy.
It does.
So then I just think of like a Sasquatch leprechaun
with
leprosy.
Unfortunate combo.
Yeah, that would be really gross to see in the woods, honestly. Yeah. Story 2. Possible leprechaun sighting? I haven't shared this story with many people as skeptics are quick to write off experience like mine. Around 7 years ago, I was staying at my dad's house. I woke up in the middle of the night to see what I now believe was a leprechaun. I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous, but this experience was so creepy it still gives me chills to this day. I grew up in my dad's house and it always felt like home. It doesn't give any creepy vibes or a history of paranormal activity. It's just a normal house. I was sleeping in my bedroom and I woke up facing the left side of the room. In the space, about 1.5 meters in front of me, I saw this small man, maybe 3 foot tall, dancing in a circle. Since I'd just woken up, my eyes weren't fully adjusted, so I could only make out the outline of this thing and couldn't see any facial features. I hope this makes sense, but it wasn't a shadowy being. It was a solid mass, as a real person standing in the room. He was wearing a top hat, and the dancing was really strange. The dancing is hard to describe. The only way I can think of explaining it is that he was hunched over, doing an exaggerated tiptoeing motion. Anyway, I'm watching it dance for around 10 seconds, which doesn't sound like a long time, but it was enough time for me to properly wake up and wonder what on earth I was looking at. I was shocked, frozen, thinking this couldn't be real. After watching it dance for a short space of time, it suddenly stops dead in its tracks, seems to turn around towards me, and begins coming at me with speed. I screamed and flipped to the other side of the bed to turn the light on. When I looked back to the other side of the room where it had been, it was gone. Needless to say, I kept the light on and didn't go back to sleep until it was light outside and my dad was awake. For a long time, I explained this apparition as a creepy small man dancing around my room in a top hat. It wasn't until I told my boyfriend about it years later, and he said it sounded like a leprechaun and it clicked. What do you think it might have been? In terms of a rational explanation, I guess it could have been a waking hallucination or overspill from a dream. However, I've had several instances throughout my life in waking up in the night and seeing apparitions. This experience, along with one other, have been the only ones that I've felt different to the other times. It's not like I saw it briefly or as a quick flash. I had time to watch it and take it in. I was fully awake by the time it started to rush towards me. I struggle to explain it away, and it still freaks me out whenever I think about it. Do you think it was just another hallucination?
Is it possibly hypnagogia?
Hypnagogies. That
Possibly.
guy. It could be.
As someone who frequently hypnagogues, possibly. Yeah, okay, so what happened after it ran towards them? Nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
They just turned the light on.
Yeah, and it was gone. Oh, somebody's comment says, I believe do experience is a hypnopomic hallucination.
Ooh.
So I assume would be like hypnagogia adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the realm of the hypnagogues.
Yeah, so that would make sense. But can you imagine? Okay, so let's act this out real quick. He says, he was dancing. What did he do?
He's like doing a little tiptoe dance.
Yeah, so he's like.
And then he stops and then looks.
Yeah! And he runs towards you.
Yeah. What a silly little dance. When you said he was dancing in the kitchen, my brain is so rotted. My first thought was, throw that ass in a circle. And now he's just like...
No, he's just doing his little jig. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's tiptoeing through the tulips.
His little lemon pepper steppers.
Yeah. But that would be really terrifying to wake up to in the middle of the night. It's
For sure.
Short little guy. And I do like the way that they described the shadowy figure because I immediately could picture it. Like there's a person in your room and you can see them, but you can't see them because it's so dark. So I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Very strange. Yeah. I lean towards like some sort of like sleep-induced thing that you saw. Mm-hmm. If it is a leprechaun, wild. This person asked, were they wearing shoes?
Huh?
Does that matter?
I don't know. OP says, I'm not sure their legs and feet were the same color. So, what did legs look like? Legs were
it said they were in England, so maybe a fairy?
A type of fairy.
Perhaps a fairy?
Because I don't imagine... I imagine there's an array of fairies that are not very tall. Yeah. Leprechauns like fall under the category of fairy.
Do they?
But as we'll see later,
a little sneak.
There's some variety.
Yeah.
I know the one that I'm going to talk about later is definitely not the one that you saw because you were a child and you shouldn't have seen it.
Yeah.
Mine hangs out with drunk people. You shouldn't have seen it. So,
yeah. Anyway.
Anywho.
Yeah, I would agree that it's like a hallucination, just personally, off my personal opinion. Not like anyone asked.
Again.
Yeah,
no one
asked
like, us.
I feel like that's like the entire thing of our show is like we'll read a story and be like, "This is what it is."
Yeah, you didn't ask. You didn't write this to me. But
and we certainly don't know.
Here's my professional opinion as someone with 24 podcast episodes. Dang. We've got 2 mics in a podcast. Professional.
2 pretty bitches with 2 mics.
Story 3. I don't know what I saw in Northern Ireland. In 2017, I was in Northern Ireland for a college field trip. My religious studies class was visiting stone circles throughout Northern Ireland, and Ireland tend to focus on religious geography. On this particular day, I think we were visiting the Bigmore stone circles. It was a normal cloudy day, and we were enjoying learning the history of the Bronze Age wonder, excitedly wanting to go back to the hotel and begin a new day of pub hopping. I remember the stone circles being separated from a nearby wood with a small wire fence. For some reason, we were hanging around the fence, peering into the woods that lay not 20 yards away. We had yet to go into the woods during our trip, mainly staying at the site surrounded by farmland. I remember wanting to go very much into this old wood for whatever reason. We all seemed to feel very curious about it. I decided to climb over the small wire fence and see if there was anything interesting in the woods. Now, these woods are different from the ones I was used to in Northern America. The branches were thick, too thick to stand in. I had to bend at the waist to traverse them. The ground was covering up soft, light brown moss, broken up by tree root. I remember quickly moving under the branches, staring at the ground as to not trip. I felt giddy, like I was a child going somewhere my parents told me not to. I felt light and I began to pick up speed. I suddenly looked up to make sure I wasn't about to run into a tree trunk when something made me stop in my tracks. I saw legs, human legs. I could only see their legs, like some person was standing straight up in the trees. The branches are too thick to stand in, but this person, ? Legs were the only thing visible. I felt an almost animal response to the fear that didn't really make any sense. I told myself they couldn't see me because I couldn't see their face, but for some reason I felt that they knew I was there. Why would someone be out here? We were the only group at the circles and there were no houses nearby. I looked behind me and realized I was much farther into the woods than I had thought. I barely see the light from the place I entered. It was so quiet, they had to have heard me approach. The only thought I had was, I am closer to them than I am to the entrance. They could get me before I make it out. I was only standing there, bent over for no more than a minute, but it felt like forever. I didn't see them move, but I could tell they were facing towards me, not away. I now really felt like I was somewhere I wasn't supposed to be. Only this time, instead of giddy, I felt nauseous. As if I was a deer and they a hunter, I turned and bolted. I flew through those trees, still bent to avoid collision. I didn't look down this time, stumbling as fast as I could, just focused on the light at the end of the trees. I felt the branches pull my hair and close as I ran. I couldn't hear anything over my own breathing. As soon as I broke the tree line, I felt a weight lift. The group standing at the fence looked startled by me bursting out of the woods. I told them that I thought I saw someone, but almost felt wrong to talk about it. We left soon after. I don't know what I think it was. Was the person hanging out deep in the forest? Was it Fae? Was it Spirit? The Green Man? All I know is it felt otherworldly. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
It's just another drunk guy dressed in a leprechaun
a guy
costume,
peeing in the woods.
taking a piss in the woods.
It's always someone pissing in the woods.
They're just minding their own business, and he comes up.
That's like the worst if you're like going into the woods to pee after like a long day of drinking and like someone sees you and you're like,
oh my god. My biggest thing when I go camping, I feel like this is, and Quentin, listen to me here. I feel like my biggest problem with camping, because I love, I love to go camping, but I hate going to the bathroom in the woods.
1,000%.
And just like pulling my pants down for everyone to see.
Yep.
I'm like, I wish I had some sort of enclosure in which I could like walk into the woods and pop this little tent around me and squat and pee while I'm covered, and then pack the little tent up.
Yeah, because we're ass out,
Yeah. Yeah. Guy peeing. Unless there's something else.
This person is saying it could be a druid. This person saying it was a Scotsman.
This person's saying a fairy.
A fairy. I wonder, like, how big were the lakes?
And she was a fairy. Okay, but as we will find out, fairies can be normal people-sized.
Okay.
Akatar taught you nothing?
Okay, yeah. Well, no, my first thought went to the whole discourse that the Cullens are actually fairies. And I was like, Edward Cullen, yeah.
Yeah, no,
but
I
yeah,
was thinking
also Akatar.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Or any other, like, romantasy book that involves fairies.
All of them.
They're
actually,
all...
none of them are 3 feet tall. Maybe there's some, but not the...
No, they're 6 foot.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, since majority of our listeners are women, all of you, I'm assuming, have read Akatar. Cassian, you're telling me that was a 3-foot man?
Big old fairy.
They described him. What is he like? I think they said 8 foot. Or
He's
something
like
that.
27 feet tall,
dude.
Built. Do they have blood flow? And does he have a perma-hard?
Yes. Anyway. Oh my god. That was so bad.
So,
Wow. Incredible.
in case
stuff.
you're wondering what you missed in that bleep, if we get enough followers, maybe we'll have some unedited content on Patreon.
At some point, possibly. That would not
Maybe
be on it.
not that.
I don't know, though, because we've talked about if we ever get enough subscribers doing Patreon and doing completely unedited videos. So you would probably get to listen to all of that. Because
there's quite a bit that's left on the cutting room floor for my dad listens. Like,
I imagine we'll probably do
subscribe.
lives at some point, too.
Lives would be really fun. Lives would be insane.
Yeah.
I feel
Unhinged.
like the people would like it.
If we ever went on tour, they would be like
Katie and Sarah would love it.
They're like the only ones commenting the whole
like,
time.
hell
Take
yeah.
your tits out.
I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, take your tits out. Like sending the gifts on TikTok.
Yeah.
Here's a rose. Here's a rose. Thank you for the rose. Thank you for the rose. Thank you for the rose. As they put the cowboy hat and glasses on us.
It'd be so funny. We would need 2 phones. Give us enough followers so we can have 2 phones so we can do lives on TikTok.
Why are we so funny? Story 4. I personally know 2 people who believe they've seen a leprechaun. Just as the title states, I personally know 2 people who have truly seen leprechauns. These 2 stories are unfortunately going to be rather long, but I want you all to get the full details. I'll post a TLDR at the end. Both of these stories take place in Western Pennsylvania. The first story takes place in 1991. My ex-boyfriend's dad was the chief of police of a small town located directly outside of a city. Okay, Charlie.
I was like, my first thought, Charlie Swan. Got it. Locked in.
He had several police officers who worked for him, and one was a younger rookie cop who I'll call Mike. The police officers in that jurisdiction often assisted in the city police with calls. Mike was going to such a call one day in the beginning of March. He was driving down a road that on either side was a field of tall, dead brown grass. All of a sudden, Mike saw what he thought was an animal coming out of the grass on the left side. He said he saw the next sequence of events in slow motion. He tried to slow his cruiser down. He saw that it was not an animal, but indeed a small, bald, dirty man dressed in ragged clothes, approximately 2 feet tall, running from the grass. He slammed on his brakes. The cruiser did not stop fast enough, and he hit the small man with the front of the car. The man flew up in the air. Mike jumped out and ran to the front. He said he looked right down at the small man, who he then noticed had reddish-brown hair. The little man began screaming, evil laugh, and hopped up, running into the grass on the right side of the road. Mike ran after him, but all he heard was the sound of evil, mocking laugh. When Mike got back to the station, he was visibly shaken. My ex's father said he was pale white and could barely choke out the story. When he finished telling them what happened, everyone except my ex's dad began to howl with laughter. The other cops teased him relentlessly about the leprechaun stories, since it was about 3 weeks before St. Patrick's Day. One of the cops went to the dollar store and bought a leprechaun hat. He left it on Mike's doorstep with a note stuck in the brim saying, "I'm coming for you, Mikey." The next morning, Mike came in crying and told my ex's father he was quitting the police. My ex's father believed Mike and said he could tell he was extremely sincere in his belief and that he'd hit a leprechaun. He told the other cops to leave him alone about it, and Mike worked with him for years to come. I'm sorry.
Can you imagine you quit your career for a leprechaun story?
Yeah, you get bullied so bad that you have to quit. Okay. I first heard this story from my ex's father. I could tell he really believed Mike had seen what he'd seen. Later that year, Mike was over at my ex's house. I asked Mike about the story. He grew quite pale and quiet, and he told me exactly the same story my ex's father had told me earlier. He insists that he hit a leprechaun with his car that day. The second story takes place in 1998.
My childhood best friend, Susan, grew up in one of the most haunted houses I've ever seen in my life. She lived in an old farmhouse way out of the country that had been in her family for generations. It's important to understand how her upstairs was set up. So you'd go up the first staircase to essentially a dead end, with hallways on either side of the staircase. To the right was a very large room, which was her parents' room. To the immediate left was her sister's room, then Susan's room, then an open hallway which led to the bathroom and a smaller back bedroom. Susan's bedroom had an open doorway into the hallway that faced the bathroom and the small bedroom. Susan would often tell me of odd things that would happen in her house also, and I would often discuss odd things that happened to both of us when I would go over there. One morning, she came into the school and told me in a whisper that she had seen a leprechaun in the hallway of her room the night before. I could tell it scared her. I asked her if she'd seen it before, and she said she had. She said she'd heard rustling noises out in the hallway and gotten out of her bed to peek around the corner. In the corner of the hall, she saw a small man, approximately 2 feet tall, in dirty clothes with red hair. She froze with fear. Then, she said the man disappeared. She said she'd seen him before out of the corner of her eye moving in the hallway at all hours of the day. I remember her clear as day saying to me that it did not look like the leprechaun on the Lucky Charms box.
That was my question.
Being an amateur paranormal investigator at the time, I asked her to draw me a picture. I still have the picture somewhere in my parents'. She drew a small man with red hair standing in her hallway. I believe she saw the leprechaun one more time, then she told me she never saw it again. I should note, too, that Susan was not asleep or in her bed at the time she thought she saw the leprechaun. She would see it out in the hallway or out of the corner of her eye while she was upstairs. I believe she only saw it over a 6-month period. A lot of strange things happened in her house, and I know she believed what she saw and wasn't just making up stories. Now that I'm older and do paranormal investigation myself, I believe what Mike and Susan both saw what are called Tommyknockers. Tommyknockers are leprechaun-like creatures believed by immigrant coal miners to live in the mines and move tools and such things. This being Western Pennsylvania, each location where the leprechaun was seen was above or near a coal mine. They are often described as dirty, scraggly, sharp-featured-looking little men with reddish hair. I cannot express how sincere both of them were to me when telling me their stories. So, yep.
Okay, so I also thought of Tommyknockers when you were reading that, because there's a brewery called Tommyknockers, not too, like, in a town, like, not our town, but, like, a couple towns over.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I was like, that's a funny little name, and I looked it up. And I feel like for being in Pennsylvania, that follows more of the lore for the region.
Yeah.
But how interesting that they have, like, 2 friends who are like, this is what I saw.
Yeah.
This
Little
is
men.
This is for reals. Yeah, tiny little
In the
guys.
same area.
Short kings terrorizing me.
I've actually never heard of Tommyknockers before. I feel like I've heard the word, but I've never known what they are. So this is a first for me. It's popping my Tommyknocker cherry.
Popping that. It's basically, okay, we're going to, an AI overview of Tommyknockers.
Oh, there's a Stephen King novel. There's a Stephen King novel about everything.
There is The Monkey. Have you, like, go see it. Go see it. I think you'll like it. It's based on a Stephen King short. But basically, a Tommyknocker is a gnome-like creature, similar to a leprechaun. We're not going to say English brownie. I don't know what that is, and that sounds vaguely racist. But they're believed to live in the cracks of mines and some of like the like sounds you hear inside the mine, just like a Tommyknocker,
Gotcha.
causing mischief. But yeah, it's also a brewery.
Nice.
So sick.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm like,
microbrew.
No. I wouldn't even know what to think because I don't know what a Tommyknocker is. I literally would have been like, oh, it's a tiny ghost.
Yeah, it's just a
Tiny ghost.
wee little ghost.
It's a little kid. A little kid ghost.
A wee little baby.
Yeah, that would freak me out if I looked out in the hallway. The first story, I'm like, he got bullied out of a job.
That's wild.
He literally was
Never
like, I
have
hit a
ever-
leper.
Yeah. First off, okay.
I
to
can't
be fair,
put just my pinky down.
I wouldn't have like told people that because I know how
Yeah.
it sounds, especially like based on what I've seen from like Brooklyn Nine-Nine,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said that in a room of
Full
other
of
people.
cops. Yeah.
Because I know I would be roasted for it.
Full of cops in there.
I believe they left a hat that said, "I'm coming for you, Mikey." Like,
yeah, no, those cops were waiting for it. They were like, this fucking loser.
if any group is gonna, I imagine they're in Boston. If any group is gonna pick on you, it's gonna be
they're still in Pennsylvania.
Oh, they're in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
In
Same-
my head for
same
the
kinda,
story.
It's
What,
the same
are we
kind of
doing
vibe.
like Philadelphia? Like,
I don't know. It's in Pennsylvania, so you can pretend it's Philadelphia.
I imagine
okay.
it's like fucking Frank from It's Always Sunny. That's who you hate.
You thought you saw fucking Leprechaun?
No, it's Frank on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh my god, yeah, it is. He's just running across
He's
the
so
road.
good.
Oh my god, getting hit by a car.
It falls into his lore.
No, it does. I
Yeah.
can totally see it. The episode where the gang saves Frank from being hit by a car.
In addition, because it's a special holiday episode, and no one's told us that they hate it, we also did some research on some Irish mythical creatures. So, start now.
So we're doing it. These are our mythical folklore, Celtic folklore. So I picked the Banshee. I'm sure you've heard of her.
I imagine just like the
She's-
sound.
she's a pretty renowned creature, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm Irish, as you know. My whole family pretty much is Irish. I have Celtic. I have Celtic on both sides. So I figured, as an Irish woman, what better folklore to explore than Irish women? Yay! So I introduce to you the Banshee. Yeah. So the Banshee, the meaning of the word vaguely means woman of the fairies. So she was first known in Irish and Celtic folklore as the woman of the fairies. She is said to appear basically as an omen. That someone you know is going to die.
What?
Yep. So you'd first hear her keening, is basically wailing or screaming. Then you'd see her. So you hear her just like La Llorona.
I was about to say.
You'd hear her, then you see her. The only difference is that I'll get to it. I'll get to it. Okay.
Okay.
Although she's world renowned at this time, she first popped off and went on the scene around 1300 AD. It was like 1380 AD, around there. So, and she had a very specific description at the time. It's morphed over time, as legends do, but at this point in time, she had a very specific. So, being in Ireland, Scotland, she obviously had long red hair, extremely pale, like ghastly. She was ghastly, almost translucent pale, dark eyes, and wearing white. She was also said to be combing her hair while keening. So she's wailing and brushing her hair out the whole time. And it is also part of the legend that she didn't walk, she just floated. She's floated everywhere. Just like a going.
Low-key jealous.
Yeah, she'd never have to walk. Although, just like the legend, it transforms over time. She has also been told to shapeshift into younger women who are like virgins, pure.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like I was saying earlier, she's normally not there to hurt you specifically, but she does look absolutely terrifying. And her main purpose is, like I said, basically just to tell you that someone you know, usually a family member, is going to pass away. So sometimes something cool. Sometimes she'll come along with what's called the death coach. And that's basically
like the hearse, but it's just a coach with horses.
Okay.
But it's being driven by nothing. It's just horses with a big black coach. You know?
Okay. I was like, this is very Harry Potter when they have the coaches that are pulled by what the fuck are they called? Thestrals. And people who haven't seen death can't see Thestrals, so it looks like it's being pulled by nothing, but people who have seen death can see them. Anyway, carry on.
So she either comes up with the death coach, or she can summon it, kind of like a horse in a game.
Yeah.
Like you're in Witcher, you're calling a roach. Yeah, you call him over. So, so she just literally walks around and screams and cries about how your family member's gonna die. Just walking through the streets, walking with her death coach, just to tell you in front of your face that one of your family members is gonna die. It's just really, really bold. It's a really bold movement.
So, and now another random thing.
Apparently, to lore, there's not just one banshee. So, you know, like with demons, there's usually only one of them. If you get a monster, it's usually
You
that
get the one. Yeah.
Yeah. But with a banshee, it's kind of up in the air on whether or not
she's a fairy, or if she's a ghost.
Mm-hmm.
But in the ghost lore, basically she's a woman who was either violently killed or killed in childbirth. So she's like coming back from those traumas. So that's where that comes in.
Yeah.
But so in that case, there can be multiple of them.
Yeah.
And they can kind of come up as a squad.
Yeah.
And if you see all of them ganged up, that means somebody who's holy or like powerful is going to die.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know what the class rulings of that are.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, if you're just a normal person, you only get one banshee.
But if you're like the mayor.
If you're like the Pope, you get 4.
Yeah.
You get
definitely gets
4 of them.
Yeah. Wild.
So now, as I said earlier, she's not normally there to hurt you,
but in some Celtic beliefs,
she was told basically that she would come back just to unalive people. So her scream was supposed to be so shrill and so loud that people would basically just off themselves.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Like they would be so fed up with her just walking around and shrieking in their ear that they just kind of give up, or they commit themselves because they just kind of go.
They're like, for the love of God, stop.
Yeah, they're literally.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, but she's not doing it herself. You know, she's not going up and actually killing them because she never gets her hands dirty.
Very.
Yeah, she's just kind of like, I'm just screaming.
She's like, all these people just keep running into.
Why are all these people just killing?
And fucking running off of cliffs.
Stuck her
I'm
down.
over here warning them, like, oh my God, do not go that direction. And sure as shit, they fucking do. Not my
What are you gonna do? It's not my fault
problem.
that they killed themselves. I tried to scare them and warn them the other way.
Alas, they did not. They just ran straight into the tree branches. Not my fault.
Not my fault at all. But yeah, that's our
wild.
fairy ghost mother. Forever wailing, just like you and I. Super short, super short, super sweet.
Cute. Love that for her.
Yeah, she's a girl boss at our core.
Go off and cry.
That's all we need. Just like a squonk. If you guys don't know what a squonk is, I use it for a lot of my gamer tags, but it's a creature, a mythological creature that is so ugly that it just cries all the time. That's it.
Same.
Banshee, squonk. One and the same.
One of the same.
Anyway, that's the banshee. What do you gotta say? What do you gotta say?
Yeah, how enchanting
Oh.
was your presentation?
Thank you. If I die, I would like to become a banshee.
I feel like that would be a good way to go.
Yeah, because you just... I don't want to be the one that, like, drives people to madness.
Yeah.
I want to be the one that's, like, foretelling of death.
Honestly, depends on the people.
Okay, fair.
Like, some of those people,
Fair.
honestly, fuck you. You know who you are, fuck you. Run into a fucking tree branch. Like,
Yeah.
if I could scream you to that direction, I fucking would.
It would be so fun to just, like, stroll up on a town with a horse.
Yeah.
Like, a dark horse and carriage behind you, and you just... Hey,
Guess
I'm
who?
here to collect.
Yeah. Guess which one of you bitches is coming home with me? Fuck some of you, honestly. You should die by banshee. Okay, so for my research, according to 23andMe, I'm not fully Irish, obviously. I am 19.3% British/Irish, but because I like Ireland more, I'm going to say most of that's Irish. Is it true? I don't know. And honestly, I don't give a shit. I freaking love St. Patrick's Day. I don't know what it is. It's one of those holidays where I literally go feral. I am so excited to be there. I'm drinking green beer. I'm drinking whiskey. Do I like whiskey? No, I'm drinking it. As an extroverted social drinker, it's my actual perfect holiday. And so I found a character in Irish Folklore who very much embodies whatever possesses me on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh my god.
Literally. It's called a Leprechaun. It's a playful little fairy in Irish folklore known for his great love of drinking and tendency to haunt breweries, pubs, and wine cellars. Same.
Okay.
Yeah, like literally.
Yeah, interesting.
Been there, done that.
I like how that's what the is. Okay, continue.
Yep. Mm-hmm. He's related to Leprechaun. Their lore is intertwined because of a few similarities, specifically being a shoemaker and protecting treasure. They love to drink after they've cobbled up all the shoes and finished their chores. This has led to some folklorists to suppose that the Leprechaun is actually a leprechaun on a drinking spree, while others think it's a regional variation of the same creature. Okay. Leprechauns are commonly portrayed carrying a jug of ale, wearing a leather apron with a hammer in hand, whistling while he works. He carries a magical purse. The contents vary. It can contain a magic shilling that always returns to the purse, no matter how often it's spent. Sometimes the purse is always full of money, no matter how much the Leprechaun spends, and for this reason, humans often try to capture him and steal his gold.
That's fair. You got a Mary Poppins bag worth of coin.
It never runs out, no matter, like, you can spend...
You got Daddy's
10,000?
black card.
Daddy's black card of like folklore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No wonder.
Even if he's caught, he has the power to vanish as soon as his captor looks away, similar to a leprechaun. So if you take your eyes off them for a second, gone. So you gotta lock in.
Okay, so I really gotta like dig my claws in before they
Do
run
not
away.
look away. Don't blink.
Well, I just buy a house and everything while I'm still looking.
Pay for it. Online has made capturing these a lot easier, honestly, and taking all our money. Just kidding. So he'll carry two purses, one with a magic shilling and the other one with a normal copper coin. And he'll trick thieves by giving them the regular coin purse. Like a leprechaun, he's known to have knowledge of hidden treasures and can be forced to reveal the location. In such instances, one of his tricks is to create an illusion of multiple treasure marks, so the seeker never knows exactly where they're trying to dig up that treasure. Which honestly, if you kidnapped me and tried to make me tell you where the treasure's at, I would also lie to you.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you know what? Fuck you.
Not if they were like beating me though.
As we have discussed.
Yeah. No, I'd give up the secret so fast.
I'd be like, actually, there's so much treasure and it's all here.
You can find it all here, and if you ask this person, they can tell you
Yeah.
more is at.
Look at the map. Okay, you looked, gone. They're most often found in Irish pubs and wine cellars in Munster. Picture included. It said if you were to leave your drinks unattended, you would soon find your cup dry, drained by the Clerticon.
Not only does he have so much money, but he drinks your drink.
Oh, he mooches off your shit, for sure.
That's crazy.
He's a trickster and a practical joker, disturbing the peace and quiet of a household, making noise day and night. They'll open wine barrels, break bottles, and consume large quantities of alcohol. If a Clerticon is expected to be present in your home, one can assume their liquor supplies will mysteriously diminish. The hope is the fairy will depart once the last drop of whiskey, their favorite drink, is consumed. If you find your liquor supplies mysteriously diminished in your home, it's not the teenagers that live there, it's the Clerticon at play. As I'm sure my sister Allie would attest to my mom. Besides his love of drinking, the Clericon also enjoys smoking a pipe. The small disposable clay pipe that he uses is known as a fairy pipe, and they're often found while digging or plowing, said to belong to him. So I did find a cute little list of do's and don'ts to do when you face a Clericon.
Oh, just like a Namahage!
Yeah, and when he's like, give me the booze. Do be sure who you're dealing with. Clericon or Leprechaun. A Leprechaun will be very insulted if he's accused of being his drunken cousin. Clericons are usually differentiated by their attitude and their fashion sense.
Okay, word.
They like to wear reds and plums, same except for nails. Reds and plums instead of earth tones worn by a Leprechaun. And they're not the honest worker that a Leprechaun presents themselves to be. They're the type that's like, yeah, I worked, but now it's time to cut loose.
Yeah.
Maybe. Facial hair is also a key difference. A Leprechaun is usually more clean-shaven, where a Clerticon has a lot more facial hair. Definitely listen to his stories. They're fabulous storytellers and love nothing more than sharing a drop of whiskey with a friendly ear. Be careful, though, as they're known to drink the most seasoned drinkers under a table, and if you stop listening to their stories, that's a bit rude. Do leave food out for them.
What food
Same.
and alcohol?
Literally a Namahage! After drinking all your alcohol, a Clerticon would love a little snack. So leave out something tasty for them, and they might be inclined to do something nice for you, such as leave you money or bring your house good fortune. For the list of do-nots, do not take your eyes off him. One of the reasons they're confused with leprechauns is that they share the same trait of disappearing if you look away even for an instant. The difference, though, is that a leprechaun will simply vanish, a Clerticon will vanish and take all of your booze.
Oh my god.
Do not anger the Clerticon. They might be small, but they're very fierce. Their cheery, laid-back attitude makes them slow to anger, but once they are angry, they are vindictive, and that can be terrifying. They're very likely to turn your milk sour, stop your hens from laying, cause your family and household to come down with the pox, make your cattle fall ill, make your sheep break their pens, beat you so badly that you'll be bedridden for weeks. So it's best to stay on the good side of all times. And again, when they're telling you a story and they've put you into a drunken stupor, do your best to keep listening. And last of all, do not try to get away from them. If you find yourself plagued by a Clerticon, the likelihood is that you'll try to move and try to get away. It will have the opposite effect. Clerticons are loyal creatures and will attach themselves to a family, mostly noble, but just let it ride out. Give them some wine, give them some snacks, and see if once the whiskey's gone, they will be too.
Oh,
So yeah, cousin of the leprechaun.
And what you become after St. Patrick's
Literally
Day,
me
or
on
St. Patrick's Day.
as everyone I got. Emily, Lisa, Bettina, Chelsea can all attest to on St. Patrick's Day. I don't know what comes over me, but I'm like, let's drink all of it. Can I drink? No, I can't. I cannot drink all of it, but I will still try.
Well, that was something.
Mm.
I don't think I feel very lucky.
Okay, so that actually was literally the point of the episode because it is the title, The Unlucky Irish. At what point did you think it was going to be anything good?
I mean, you look so highly upon St. Patrick's Day, so I kind of thought that it might be a little positive, but now that I think of it, the lucky thing is you liking, subscribing, and sharing us all over the internet. Like, comment, subscribe on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, all of that fun stuff. What was that? 2 question marks.
Mm-hmm.
What was that? _ the pod. And if you would like to email us with your own stories, you can email us at whatwasthat.thepod@gmail.com.
Thank you so much for listening to us. And now I think it's time to get to the end of the rainbow.
Is that supposed to be like an innuendo? Because, I do live a short... Wait, what was that?